Hello, friends.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live video. We do these every 2 weeks on a Wednesday. This is where me and Žiga will show you around Mix Analog and tell you what's new since the last video we made.
So yeah, this week's webinar is going to be a little bit special because, as you can see, we've made a slight change to our background. It's only for webinar purposes, nothing else.
Oh, really? Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, big changes today. Big announcements are just
Around the corner.
Yeah. Yeah, what you can see behind us is the actual gear that's available online on Mix Analog. So yeah, this is the consequence of the big move that we announced on the last webinar. So yeah, what we will discuss next is the aftermath of that and some other news about what's coming up.
All right. So I guess before that, we should just explain the format to anyone new to this channel. So what we do is we will show you around Mix Analog and we will talk a bit about it. At any point in time during this webinar, if you have any questions, just write them down in the YouTube chat. We'll be looking down into that direction every now and then to check what's new, and we'll try to reply as soon as we can. Now about this project that we were talking about, called The Move. We used to have this gear in another room about 20 meters away, and had everything, both the servers and the audio gear, in the same room. So this was very practical, I guess. All the connections were very close and everything, but it didn't work out the way we wanted. We wanted to have this gear new to us so that we can see what's going on with it, fix anything that might get out of whack, anything that's broken, anything that you guys have problems with. We want to see when it happens, and also we want this to be like a room that we can always show you guys what's happening with the gear. So in a server room that's dark and looks ugly and has a lot of other stuff in it, all kinds of servers and so on, they're just taking attention
a lot
away.
of heat and a lot of noise.
Yeah, exactly. So not really an environment where you want your gear. So we kind of graduated from the server room, and now it's here in the office with us. So yeah, hello everyone again, and I'm now going to talk a little bit about how this move went, because it was quite a big project for us.
Quite a project.
It had a few unexpected turns and twists, but overall it did take us only 2 days, as we kind of announced that it would. So we did a bit of preparations, but I guess it wasn't really enough, so we still had quite a few problems, and yeah, I just wanted to share with our
Community.
yeah, exactly, our community on what's transpired over there. It might be interesting to all of you more technically inclined among you.
I just wanted to say that by now I think I've already come to terms with the fact that whatever you plan of that magnitude or that complexity, that it never goes according to plan. Like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe if you're shooting rockets into space, then maybe it cannot end the other way. Then plan it so well, then it has to go according to plan. But
Yeah, it still doesn't sometimes.
yeah, so
But I get what you're saying. Yeah, like maybe there are things that you can really plan out, and we tried, but you know, it didn't exactly go the way we wanted. But so it did take us two days to do, and we did prepare the network between the two disparate rooms beforehand and tested that. So we're quite, feeling secure about our network situation. That's actually one of the most important things for this project, because we stream a lot of live audio, and lossless quality at 192 kilohertz at high bit depths and so on across the network up and down and eventually to you guys. So, we need a really solid network solution. On top of that, all of the gear that you see behind, so most of it by now is digitally controlled, so that when you guys use Mix Analog, you're using your mouse to control the gear, and actually the control happens here. So these kind of connections from you to the gear also need to be facilitated. So again, the network is a crucial part of the solution that we have. And we are under some constraints, let's say, because if we want to use these really nice parallel converters, then we also need to use a regular PC, something like a PC or a Mac, where we can put in an Avid HD card and use that to stream the audio. So what I'm trying to say is that we can't have like a proper server machine to do that. We need to have something more regular. So we can't put Linux on it because Linux doesn't support that kind of thing right now. Avid doesn't support Linux.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Like that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's unfortunately not going to happen anytime soon. So we're stuck with Windows, and we had quite a few problems with that. So, but overall, even though we had quite a few networking problems and USB problems and so on with Windows, eventually we got through to be just about half an hour late overall over our deadline. So we got on, I think we got everything through on Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday late night.
Saturday late night, had a bit of a party and went to sleep.
Such a party, just everyone falling to the couch and screaming, yes, it's over.
Yeah, and just to give you an idea of the things that we had to do to make this work, we actually had to build another box, another computer, just to do the USB interfacing with our gear, because Windows wasn't stable with that, and we were moving from a server Linux box that did all of the communication with that. And so that was a very interesting last minute change.
Yeah, it was. We planned it the way that one single computer, this Windows machine, is going to handle the Avid I/O card. Mm-hmm. So combined with the actual audio engines.
Yeah.
And the USB control for the devices that are USB controllable. And of course, we tested USB ports on another computer that's running Windows beforehand, and everything was running okay.
Yeah, exactly. Everything was running fine.
Yeah, until you plug in the actual one, then things started to go haywire.
So we tried it. We tried to minimize the impact, but unfortunately it didn't work out. So had to make another computer at last minute to go with it. Succeeded in the end. So yeah, even with that change, we kind of caught the deadline mostly.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the things that was really impressive to me was like the amount of cabling and everything else that comes with it.
The cool pictures.
Yeah, we should show the pictures of the cabling, I think. Like, yeah, this is a before picture, I think.
Yeah.
Right. So
this is the old setup.
This is the old setup. I mean, we kind of made a much prettier setup at first, and then we added more machines and everything.
Yeah, that's a consequence of constant development and adding new stuff and rewiring new stuff and fixing stuff on the go, and putting out fires when something goes wrong. Not literal fires, nothing burned down, but
nothing burned down yet.
So yeah, if you don't really take care about cabling, each time you get in there and change any connections, you end up with that mess.
Yeah.
And it was not cool.
Yeah, not cool at all, and we needed to improve that. So during those 2 days, we also did quite a few optimizations of the cabling. I think you're the best one, Žiga, to tell us more about it. Oh, yeah, here's another pic of how we sorted them, right?
So yeah, I just wanted to make the whole system put together in a way that allows for tweaking, allows for updates, allows for fixes, modifications, all that, but still enables you to, or enables us to do this stuff fast and minimize the chance of errors while putting stuff in and out. So
what did we do?
yeah, we ordered, as you can see, we first ordered all the cables. We put shitload of labels on them, and I checked the lengths and the pairing, and try to optimize as much as possible the layout of the rack behind us and the combinations on the multi-core cables and breakout cables, so that everything is as neat and tidy as possible for this kind of setup. It cannot be really neat and tidy because it's not a permanent setup that you put up and leave like that.
It's not an install. It's just a temporary. I mean, it's an arrangement where things tend to change.
Yeah, it's in a way it's a continuous work in progress.
Exactly. Yeah, it's improved, and we'll talk more about improvements actually later because we have two that we want to talk about. One that we've already done and one that we will do. So stay tuned for that.
I think I have another picture prepared. Just let me show you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at that first, this is the
old setup.
Yeah, the half empty rack on the left is the one that's now on the right, and you can see that we made quite a few changes to network wiring, which is, I think, much better now.
Yeah, it's much more tidy and just easier to get access to, easier to see what's where, because all of the individual cables are labeled and cables that go together are zip tied together. So if you want to access a particular network or some particular machine, because we have multiple servers to take care of all of the data that we process, then we want to. You can do that just by looking at each of those combinations of cables and finding the appropriate label, and it's like super fast. Like before, you could lose half an hour easily just trying to find the correct port, and then is it really this one, or have we changed maybe later or something? So yeah, just much more tidier. So I really like that aspect that we're not losing time on stuff like that.
Yeah, and actually all that paid off in the end, because if it weren't for that networking problem and USB port forwarding problem or whatever that was,
it was amazing.
Actually this all arranging and labeling and everything really paid off, because everything to the point of network setup went really smooth, and at least to my feelings, it took us much less time than we anticipated at first.
Yeah. I can only concur.
Yeah.
So looking at the chat window, not seeing really much questions, or any questions for that matter. So I think we can move on with the next step. So thank you guys for staying with us on this tirade about the move. It was a involved project, but we're super happy that we actually didn't take like a week to do it, but just 2 days as we promised, and we tried to give you guys a little reward for sticking with us by having the whole night following the move be completely free. So I saw quite a few people took advantage of that, and that was really cool to see. All of those lights turning up behind me. So that was great.
Yeah, it was really.
I want to do that again. I think just not the move, but the other thing was really cool.
It was really a sight to see, because immediately after we posted on the social networks that we are back up and the systems are running, the whole rack just
lit up
like a Christmas tree. So
so
we love that.
Exactly, we love that. So anyway, seeing as there are no questions, I'll go on. And I think the next thing is a new hardware that was deployed to the rack in the time between these two videos. So some of you have already taken it for a spin, but we thought we wanted to show you guys more about it.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the volume controller,
Yeah.
which is a new part that replaces the old volume controller on the Telefunken, and it's also a new addition to the Studer tape machine. So I'll let Žiga talk more about it, as you're the designer of it, and probably have much more to say about it than I do.
Yeah, actually that's so. Now that we have a camera in the rack, this is the box here, and this is I might say that it's a design that verges on audiophile. That's buffered passive attenuator with an additional gain stage, so it's actually a volume controller that goes in positive gain and into attenuation, but all the volume and actual adjustment is done on a passive voltage divider. So you really, I cannot think of a way to be more puristic than that. So what this thing does is it allows you to practically gain stage your signal into the tape machine and out of it, so you get the exact amount of tape and transformer saturation that you're looking for, and do it in the most transparent and most transparent way possible. So the only thing that is going to be coloring your sound is the tape, and not some funky volume controller.
So compared to the last one,
compared to the last one, I think it's in magnitudes better in harmonic distortion, and it's actually double in capabilities, because the previous one only had one attenuator or one volume control that we put in front of the tape, so you could either push or push the signal into tape or go into tape a bit colder to avoid additional saturation. And this one has two for each tape machine, so you can drive the signal into the tape and then lower the output of the tape machine before going to the AD converter, so you don't clip the burls and only use the tape, or vice versa, where you can go into the tape on the medium level and then boost the output into the burls to take advantage of the wonderful soft clipping that this converter is capable of.
Cool.
And of course,
can we show it?
Yeah, we've prepared the session for you. I'll go here. And start my session with the same song that we're playing
Since forever.
It's the demo song that's available on Mixenlock if you want to just try stuff out before you upload any of your ROM files, or if you don't have anything at hand at the moment. So, one more thing that, as Bojan told me, has been asked a lot of times since the new volume controller has been introduced, is why do we have two separate sets of stuff that just does volume? Like, why do we need 6 knobs for a single tape machine to just manage volume? So maybe let's take a look at that first.
Sure.
So the knobs on the volume unit, or no, the I/O unit, so the one that looks like a converter.
Digital converter controller unit.
This one. Those knobs are digital volume adjustment. So those modify the source file before going out of the converter, or modify the resulting file that gets
digital stuff.
Yeah, so it controls the volume after analog to digital conversion.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can lower the volume to not show digital clipping, even if you go into the into the clip to take advantage of the soft clipping. You can lower the volume here, and you will not see the red lights pop up in your DAW.
Cool.
And the knobs on the actual volume controller are analog volume adjustment. So if you really want to be as pure as possible, so if you really are into pure analog signal processing, then you can double click on the buttons on the converter I/O unit, so they go to unity gain, so they do not alter your digital data in any way.
Yeah.
You
what
go,
you put in is what you get back.
Yeah, you go out of the converter at full scale, just as your file is intended to, and then you can adjust the volume analogly. Analogly, is that a word?
In analog.
In analog.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to sync my my thinking into showing you the
Sure.
GUI and talking it. I'm a single-threaded person, so I have trouble with that. So yeah, boost your level here that says to tape if you want more saturation.
Yep.
From the tape machine, and lower the volume here if you are exiting the converter at a very hot volume.
And you don't want the tape to saturate.
Yeah,
that
and
much,
you don't want the tape to start eating up your transients. You can lower the volume here, and it's all going to happen passively, so there will be no degradation to bit transmission.
Cool.
And if you're maybe new to all this analog processing and everything, and you don't have the feeling about the tape sound and saturation down in your subconscious yet, those VU meters on the analog volume controllers show what the VU meters on the tape machine would have been showing if they were actually installed. So 0 VU on those meters corresponds to 0 VU on the tape machine if as calibrated. So we calibrated it to the levels that are shown on those VU meters here, and idling somewhere around 0 probably means that you're in a very safe spot where nothing strange is going to happen. If you're peaking somewhere around -3, that means that you're going in safely, that you're going to retain a lot of transients. And if you're pushing it into the +1, +2, +3, or even pegging it, you are getting into the tape saturation territory.
Yeah. So if it's pegging all the way really like to the right and it's like completely in the red, that does not mean it's clipping, right? That just means it's really saturating.
Actually, something in the tape circuitry is clipping, because that's when you get the saturation from. It's not really hard clipping because it's not digital clipping.
It's soft clipping
it's
from the electronics in the tape.
Yeah.
Okay.
But going into the red on those meters does not mean that you're clipping digitally.
Yeah.
Because
the converters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The internal headroom of the new volume controller is extremely high, is at +27 dBu, which nothing in here can overload.
Exceed, yeah.
So the converters are set to +18 dBu, and the tape starts to saturate hardly much before +24. So you're not going to clip the analog controller no matter how hard you try.
That's cool. Good to know.
Yeah. And the level from tape is your attenuator before the converter, or your additional gain stage before the converter. So even if you drive the tape very mildly, so you're idling around -1 to -3, and coming back at roughly
Something like that,
the
yeah.
same volume. Boosting the output will activate the gain stage inside the volume controller and will allow you to actually go into clipping on the Burl mothership converter,
Yeah.
which also has a sounds of its own, and it's not all that bad actually. It can be.
Oh yeah, no, it's
quite
very,
cool.
it's very interesting, and I think lots of mastering engineers are using that Burl converters, especially to clip.
Mm.
So I think it could be quite legit to kind of go get that high-end response from tape, get the high frequencies that sound tape-ish, and sculpt the bass a little bit with the formant going up a bit on the kick drums and bass and so on, but just like mildly, not really hitting the tape too hard. And then you can use the gain stage in the volume controller to, after the tape, go and raise the volume to something more appropriate for the AD. But you can also do the other way around, where you will go out like maybe hot, maybe not so hot from the DA, but then you will raise the volume in the first half of the volume controller, the input side, and so that you will really hit the tape hard, like just pegging it all the way into the red. It's something that you can do, and actually, to me, on some material, it really does sound okay.
Sorry for doing that.
Cool.
I'm
Okay,
trying
so
to
shall we try and
that. Oh, okay, it's here.
cool. So what we have here is actually a live view from the camera that we installed on top of the Studer, of the tape machine, and now we will try to run a session with it.
Yeah, and we got one question on the chat from Charaka Rajguru.
Hi.
And he's asking, can I use Studer as a limiter? Actually, well, yeah, in a way you can. You can use the Studer as a clipping limiter. It's not gonna be very transparent. But on the other hand, from my experience, after driving the tape a bit harder, you can get into that minus 13, minus 14 loudness units pretty easily.
With the Studer and the volume controller combination.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah, I will switch to short-term loudness units on our metering, and try to get into the streaming services sweet spot, which is the level that the majority of mastering is done at these days. So let's give it a spin. I hope this is not messing with our microphone sound too much. So as you can see, I'm driving the tape pretty hard. It's slamming the meter to the right. But if you listen carefully, it's still not. It's not hard clipping. You cannot hear it all.
Yeah, exactly. It's all the way to the red, but I'm not really hearing any specific clipping. Like it's just doing its thing.
So right now I'm at -3 peak. So the meters on the converter show you sample peak values. I'll just turn the music off to say what I have to say. So as you could see, as you saw, I think that's that the loudness was around -14, and I was not even going into clipping on the converter. So using the tape as a saturation unit that shaves off the very sharpest peaks to get to the loudness point that's appropriate for most of today's services is really easy with that machine. And that's what it's so amazing about it, at least to me. So yeah, if I were to use it as an actual limiter,
the
The mic off?
no, just maybe the loudspeakers off.
Oh, this will be some more work.
Oh well, if it's too hard, then let's just turn off the mic. Yeah.
Speakers, there you go. This should be
Alright.
off now.
Hopefully, there's not going to be feedback now.
Well, the mic is still turned on, so I might
Yeah,
lower the mic volume.
Okay. Okay, we'll try again and see if this works any better.
You know what? I'm just gonna turn off the mic completely and do the demo, and then we can talk about it later.
Start again, 8 a.m. Traffic jam inside your head. You can't trust no one. Too late when the moment's gone. Can't go back and change your mind. Switch it off and press rewind. Have another drink, it'll make you feel better. So join the queue, get in line. What's the point? I'm sick of trying. Can't trust stories told. We're all trapped in goldfish bowls, trying to work the future out. Living in the here and now. Have another drink, it'll make you feel better.
Okay, so I'm glad to hear that it was
Did it work this
fine
time?
now.
Yeah, okay.
So what I was trying to show is that in the beginning it was a mild saturation setting, so I was trying to keep my needle somewhere below 0 VU on the input, so you can see the more transparent nature of the studio machine. And then after that I was going for a, let's say, hotter setting, where I was at first driving the tape more, and then driving the output of the tape into the burl to shave off another couple of dB on the highest peaks. And as you could see, I was hitting -10 loudness units without even really trying. So
Cool. Yeah, so you can use it like
Yeah.
that. That's definitely one of the intended uses. So feel free to do it with this combination. So hopefully, we're very proud of this volume controller unit. We hope that it will give you much more control over the gain staging, and that you guys will be able to get a lot of great music going on with that.
well, it's, if nothing else, now it's the interface for the whole tape machine is much more in line with what software plugins are offering these days, because you usually have the input and output knobs
Yeah, exactly.
to decide the level of saturation, and now we're finally able to offer you the same level of functionality in an analog domain, which is great, I think.
Definitely. And now that the studio is more stable and we're finally getting it to work more or less 24/7 without hiccups, we're going to start also on the IPS and on the bias settings, so that you guys will be able to change the IPS and the bias. So it will go even further into the area of what a typical plugin for tape saturation has right now. So we'll be able to control the IPS, the bias, the input volume, and the output volume, but all analog. So
And also input and output equalization.
all right, really?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
also accessible via the serial port, so you can crank the bass into the tape and just lower it when coming back, or
Oh.
vice versa. So yeah, if nothing else, I know that the high shelves that are the actual emphasis filters in the tape machine actually sound pretty good. So using that just as your master bus EQ is not all that bad.
Well, Žiga owns a studio desk for his main desk in his studio, so I'll defer to him on the judgment of the sound of studio circuits, but they didn't become a very famous audio brand by accident. So,
No.
So I think we can take his word for it.
I have a question.
We do have a question. Is analog volume control needles are written algorithm or something else? Okay, that's an excellent question. Right now, the needles are actually simulated from the ADDA levels, but in the future, we want to add a detector inside the same box that will actually sample the signal. Right now, it's not necessary because it's the only box that is between the tape and the converters. So maybe in the future, when we want to make more complex setups, that will actually be needed, because then we won't be able to just show you the views. We'll have to also find the level for them at the tape.
Yeah, it's easy to calculate the levels now, because you can just simply add the level from the converter and
Make a view adjustment over
Yeah.
that. Yeah, true.
Okay, so I think
Excellent question.
I can release my session now, so someone else can.
Can play with the studio.
So
Now's your
there
chance.
you go. I'm giving you your studer back. So, did you forget anything about
The volume controller?
volume controller and the studer?
I don't think so. We talked about the difference between digital and analog gain staging, and we talked about how it's made to be like really high-end, puristic, audiophile grade signal path. I think we mentioned before, if
Do you
not
think
today.
it's necessary to give the really geek stats, so what chips are being used and what
Well,
kind of...
I don't think so, but we should publish that information actually on the product page
It
at
is.
some point.
Oh, okay, yeah. Actually, if you're really into geeky stuff and electronics and all sorts of that gibberish, we actually made a release statement for the volume unit. It's on blog.mixanalog.com, and there you have, I think, most of the
Tech specs.
Yeah, most of the tech specs about
Cool.
this very machine, down to the chips used to do interfacing and gain staging and all that.
Cool.
So the next one,
The next one is a very special one.
yeah,
So we talked about it before a number of times, but the Gyro G24 is actually like really nearing completion now. It's on the workbench right now, but
I'll go check if I can borrow it for a
okay.
minute.
Giga will go check, and I'll try to entertain you in the meantime. Yeah, so the Gyro G24 is a passive-aggressive compressor. It's a really nice mastering-grade compressor that is all passive in the signal path, and we are now far enough in making it work inside Mix Analog that we're actually doing just the last bit of assembly and wiring.
That's
so
it.
That's it. It's very beautiful and very clean machine on the inside.
Yeah, and the business end of it is right here.
Yeah, this is where the optical cells live.
Actually, it's quite funny because all the active electronics that you see inside here, are only the sidechain. So actually, the audio only goes in to the. I don't think you can see it by this angle, but
Yeah, so
there are some Lundal transformers right
and those are
underneath here.
the best you can get actually. Like really clean, really nice transformers. Very
And then-
expensive stuff. And you can, the signal enters the transformers, is attenuated, and then with the optical
With this.
with optical cell, it goes out through the transformer, and that's actually it.
Yeah.
So there's no chips, no transistors, no tubes even, nothing in the signal path except for that. So a very cool and crazy idea to do it this way, but we expect nothing less from Mr. Jacob Erland from Gyro Audio. His designs are quite amazing, and can't wait to put this one online.
Yeah, I was actually lucky enough, to have the chance to try it out in the studio before we got on with the development of the automation. And I can say that it takes some time getting used to, but when you figure out what the box is actually doing. It's so versatile and so musical in a way. It's very transparent, but still has some kind of a very subtle sound signature that's expensive. I don't know. It's I really to some point you can make it sound like a diode bridge compressor, even though it's not.
Really?
It definitely doesn't sound like your LA2A, even though it's an optical compressor. So
it should be
it's
faster if nothing else.
yeah, it's much faster.
Mm.
And so yeah, it's really the one of the best things about it. It's not a reissue or inspired by or another 1176 box.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's really nice with Jakob's gear overall is that it's the guy's an inventor. He invents stuff like that, and it's this crazy, never before tried concepts that really push what audio can do. And these days, with everybody having hundreds of plugins and all of that, and so many of them are emulations of classic gear, getting near but not really. And then there's so many clones of hardware out there. There's also these same designs. It's so refreshing and so great to see someone sit down. And designing an electronic circuit, not code, that's actually like new. That's something that's not been tried before. So really excited to get the GyrF done. Just a bit more wiring needs to happen, but this time we're gonna take it a bit more slower than we used to. We're gonna do a bit more preparation, just to have a bit more of the information available up front. Maybe for some of you guys who have been with us since the beginning, or maybe for a few past releases, we usually just release the hardware, then at some point we get a tutorial out, and then some more information comes about the product, and we think that's maybe a bit unfair because a lot of people don't actually know a lot about the unit, and then they have to get this information elsewhere, and it's frustrating, I think. So we really want to make this release a bit better, I think.
Yeah, we try to structure things.
Up the quality a bit.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take a few more weeks of time to get this right, and we're gonna deliver the GyrF in a bit more fleshed out state with a bit more information surrounding it, so that you guys can, when it's gonna go live, you'll be able to just jump right into it and get the most out of it straight away.
Yeah, so it's gonna come out with a written tutorial, it's gonna come out with a video tutorial, maybe for the first time in more than just English language.
We'll see. We're really excited about that.
Yeah, in progress of somehow getting the tutorials translated and narrated in other languages than English. So yeah, we are trying to do better this time.
I think that's the overall message. Yeah, great. Okay, so what's next? Let's see if there are any questions. I'd like to thank Gabriela for answering the math question. It's a good question, by the way. So I think nothing else. Let's go on and talk about another improvement that we are preparing, and it's actually about a hardware unit that I really like. It's a part of the Rack 1 setup that we have over here, the pole tacks and the VCA somewhere here. You can't probably recognize it because it doesn't have any knobs in the front, but that's the VCA over there. But anyway, I'm talking about a precision limiter.
Yep.
It's a very nice machine, a very nice brick wall limiter, has its own sound, something between a clipper and a limiter. Can do this wild, like really distorted sounds all the way to transparent sounds. I think it's a really cool unit, but it has its share of problems, and I'll let Žiga talk a bit more about its short history and what are we going to do to remedy that.
Yeah, so this was one of the few first boxes that we automated in general. And that shows in a way that it has some weird small little development board microprocessor in it.
Oh, yeah.
That's a little bit special. So it's not like most of the other ones that we do. So the code written for it is a little bit different. If I remember correctly, I think that the whole development environment is pretty much the same, but you never know which libraries are going to be used for each and every development board. So, long story short, even though if it's the same platform that all the other control processors that are most of the time working correctly, this little guy is causing us trouble all the time.
Unfortunately.
So we figured out that it's about time to remedy that. So we're putting in the same control board or controlling microprocessor board than it's in the majority of other units, because we know it's tried and tested. We know how to code it to perform dependably. And that's what we're going to do with the limiter. So we're going to probably take it out for a few days, install it in a new case to house the bigger controlling circuit,
Yeah.
and to achieve, amongst others, better or let's say just different heat dissipation from the PSU, so we can fit it into a 1U rack space enclosure. And I'm doing also a review of the firmware, because I might say I also got just a little bit better at coding firmwares in the last
That's actually true.
3 years.
I can vouch for that.
So yeah, and from the user's perspective, nothing should actually change, except for the fact that you will get much less, or hopefully no more errors in the style of the limiter not responding to any knobs turning, or opening a session in rack 1 and getting excessively high levels without you being able to do anything about it, because the limiter was the last box in the chain, and if the little controlling microprocessor got stuck, that usually meant being stuck at full out volume, so it wasn't actually a pleasant experience.
Yeah, so we're sorry about these kind of problems. I think if you're using Rack 1 a lot, then you might have run into that a few times. Like Žiga said, either the limiter is not responding to any controls and you're not seeing any gain reduction on it. However, most of the time you're hearing a lot of gain, a lot of clipping coming from the whole chain, but you have like the VCA turned down, you have the no gain coming out from the EQs, maybe they're even bypassed, but you're still getting a lot of gain, a lot of clipping, and working with the limiter doesn't change anything. So these are the symptoms. We've tried to say to get this done, in the best possible way. So we're gonna just replace that control circuit with one that we know will work much better. So the VCA has a very similar design, but is very stable. So we're just gonna go with that.
Well, to be honest, I cannot remember if we had to restart the VCA once.
I don't think we had to
don't
do that
remember.
even once. I don't think so. Yeah, I think it's just there, sits quietly, processes audio, and it's just there.
Gets the job done.
And that's exactly what we want the limiter to do. Just be there, do your job, and don't complicate our lives. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's actually one.
There's one more feature, right?
Yeah, one small little firmware update.
Yeah, we're a startup. We can't work without features.
Yeah, sure.
Everything needs to have a feature.
So I actually figured out a way to practically bypass the input and output gain stages. So the input volume and the output volume, whenever you set the controls to default. So no input gain and no output gain adjustment. When everything is set to 0,
to flat,
to unity gain,
gain.
the ceiling is actually the only control
That's in the circuit.
that's in the circuit.
It's really cool.
Um,
It's inspired by the volume controller that has the
Yep.
same feature. So we thought, this puristic
we didn't
audiophile.
we didn't even say that when we were talking
I
about
think
the
so,
volume
yeah.
control.
So the same thing happens with the volume controller. If you set both of the gains at neutral, at unity gain, then actually the whole circuit just puts itself out.
Yeah, it's a true bypass, relay bypass. So
Yeah, so this is exactly the same thing that we want to do with the limiter as well. So that and going into the future, I think with most other units that have this precision moniker, you want to go with, if you don't touch a control, then actually it doesn't do anything to the sound. Like it really just goes through it. Nothing happens. So so we're going to do that with the limiter. It's going to be hopefully done in about 2 weeks, I think.
yeah, that's the ETA at the moment. I'm already hard at work with the firmware. The case is supposed to arrive today, but it's probably not going to. So
Yeah.
probably tomorrow. But still, in a week or two, probably to make sure everything works as expected, you're getting a new stable limiter. The GUI is going to look exactly the same. So yeah, less problems, less errors.
Better quality. All right, so let's look at any questions coming about. I don't see any, so I think we're just going to go with the last thing that we have on our list to share with you, and it's about the FAQ section on our website. Yeah, there's as you guys probably know, we have live chat support, and we also receive your emails. You can send them to support@mixout.com. Quite a few things are very similar, like people are asking about the MAT system, about subscriptions, about what's mono, what's stereo, how do I prepare my files, how do I upload them, and so on. So we have an FAQ section on our website that was supposed to deal with that. But there comes a time when you really need to rework that, so we found out a lot of new kind of categories and questions that you guys want to have, that you guys are asking a lot about. So we updated that section quite thoroughly. So there's a lot of both new questions and categories on that page. And we also tried to make it a bit more understandable, a bit less super technical. So hopefully, if you're just looking for a quick answer on one of the aspects about Mixout, it should be quite a bit easier now. So we're looking for feedback on that actually. So if you guys want to take a look at that and send us an email if it works better for you, or if there's something missing, or if there's something that you want us to address on that.
Yeah, and sorry for interrupting you, but
Sure.
I would really like to encourage you, because we've already done some slight edits to the FAQ page because of the users' feedback on our Facebook community. So we actually do listen to people that
Yeah,
have
the system works.
that have good suggestions about FAQ, because it's meant to serve you. So yeah, tell us if you're missing something, or if something is not clear enough. Please let us know, and we'll try to fix it.
Cool. And with that,
we are through with what we've prepared for today. So we're gonna stare in that direction for another minute or so. If someone has another question that's not necessarily related to what we've been talking today, I think that
we do have a first comment, and the event on Saturday was fun. First time I think that checked the music hardware. Yeah, and it is a fine EQ. You're right. The music EQ is fine, but also I also really enjoyed the setup that we had that night, meaning that everything was free. It was one night where everything was free. I really liked that. I really dug that, and I think the users also liked it and had an opportunity to try quite a few things that are, skeptical. Maybe I'm not sure if I want to try that. But you know, in a setup like that, you could just easily. So I think we'll do more of those every now and then. Just throw in a night of or a weekend or a day or something like that where everything will be free.
Oh, that's a cool question. What genres of music do you guys enjoy?
You first?
Yeah, I think it would be quite fun to spend the day in our office. I think because we listen to all kinds of music. I mean, you can hear true cult black metal and country and drum and bass and classics in the same day.
In the same half an hour sometimes.
Yeah, even so. But yeah, at least for me personally, a lot of my musical background is Scandinavian metal, all sorts of it, and then also classical music because I was studying piano for quite some time, and just by virtue of trying to be a better mixing engineer, I've delved into all kinds of different genres in the last couple of years. So right now I'm listening to, I don't know, everything from Valentina Lisica to Devin Townsend and Korn on the same day. So I'm all around.
So yeah, there's a lots of variety in the office. I've raised myself up on classical music. Eventually got really into extreme metal. Was a drummer for some time. Made a studio, and that's why we actually have this thing happening. That's because I wanted to record our band, and that kind of turned out into this after a few years. Wow. But anyway, these days you'll find me with something like Noisia or so some sort of drum and bass or dark electronic music. That's one extreme that I like. I also like classical music. I really like 40s jazz and swing and sort of big band things. So that also works for me.
And you're going to a pretty special concert.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's in February, and I'm going to see Baby Metal.
Yeah.
So
of all things.
Of all things, all right. It's a cool band.
Yeah.
You have to admit, it's a great band actually. I really like the antics, the music. It all just fits together so nicely.
It's a whole package.
It's super provocative for a lot of people, so it's nice to talk about it with people. Get their reactions. This is actually music. This is actually a genre, and it exists, and it has a lot of followers, and people are super triggered.
Yeah, I actually envy just a little bit because I think it would be quite an adventure to see that live.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, that's about our. I think we could talk about it for much longer.
Yes, music is a huge topic.
Yeah, I think we wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't so.
No, everybody here is a big fan of at least 2 or 3 genres, I think. So let's see, are there any other questions?
No, I think just comments.
Cool.
So what? Should we wrap it up? It's been an hour.
It's been an hour, and we do have to get back to work. So thank you guys. We've tried this method with having the camera put up with the gear for the first time. It kind of worked out. Sorry for everything being a bit hectic on this webinar, including the sound and the feedback from the mic. We'll try to improve until next time.
Yep. And with that, thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. If you happen to take a look at that webinar as a recording on the YouTube and not live, and you want to know anything about where we were talking about, leave a comment, and the little pop-up will let us know on YouTube that someone is asking about us.
We'll get back to you, and the same goes for email. that you can send at support@mixanalog.com or click the chat on the webpage.
So have a nice remainder of the day and see you in 2 weeks.
Bye guys.
Bye.